Welcome back to Besties on the Deck, and this was our live interview with Brian.
And he said, "Oh hell," he said, "I think you'll do just fine," and joined the Boilermakers, and that is my favorite job because it was always changing, always going somewhere else and doing different things. Generally welding, but I did get into some of the rigging, some of the heavier picks. We did the upper half of the reactor at Chevron, and it weighed 1,100,000 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And we lifted that off the top and sat it onto the ground and did all the repairs to it and to the internals of the reactor. And then we sat it back up on top and welded it all back together.
Holy cow.
And, yeah, I think the wall thickness, I think, was 2.5 or 3 inches, something like that. Some of the, since California's known for earthquakes, every connection, a main connection, they would, natural gas powered steam generator, it's 95 to 100 feet up in the air with 3 drums or vessels. You have high pressure, intermediate pressure, and low pressure that they all sit up on top of the unit once it's built. But you're dealing with, they call them moment connections, where a beam comes into a column where the cross section at the top and at the bottom meet the upright.
Yeah.
And it was 2.5 inches thick, and then we had to add, it was called a Northridge plate, because of the Northridge earthquake we had. Another 2.5 inches onto that.
Goodness.
So by the time you got done welding that connection, it was, I think, 5.5 to 6 inches thick. It had to be ultrasounded or x-rayed or checked to make sure that your welds were clean and that they would pass. I remember it was the second, there was the third job I'd ever done was the high desert job, and I was the first welder on the job, and in fact my stamp number was I can't remember if it was it was BM1, Boilermaker 1, and I had to stamp every weld that I made, and then the quality control guy would come around and he would ultrasound all of the welds. And about halfway into the job, the guy, I'll never forget him, his name was Fred, real tall, skinny, older guy. He said, I earned the nickname Big Dog with the Boilermakers. Everybody does it. I don't even think half of them know my name. They just know me as Big Dog. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, Big Dog," he said, "I want to go up and look at your weld." And we got done looking at it. He goes, "I got to tell you something, son." He said, "Out of all these guys welding out here," he said, "your welds are the cleanest welds I've ever seen on a job."
Yeah.
And he said, he said, "I've been all over the place." He said, "But your welds are real clean and real quality looking work." And he said, "I just wanted to tell you that." He didn't say it in front of anybody. He said it to me.
Yeah.
And that made me feel good.
Yeah.
So apparently he had said it to one of the superintendents in the office. And I went from that job, because normally when a job ends, it's about 6 to 9 months, and then they start thinning out the herd. It's called a reduction in force. You get your RIF paper, and you get your final check, and you get sent back to the hall to get your name on the out-of-work list until the next job comes up. And they've always got work going or whatever, and they normally keep everybody working to the most part. You got a few guys that sit on the out-of-work list for a while, but I've never been, the first 5 years of Boilermaking, I never was out of work. I followed with, the company was Kiewit, PKS, Peter Kiewit and Sons. Stayed with that company for almost 2.5, 3 years, and went from power plant to power plant to power plant. they were all new construction, so we started from the cement slab up, which means as soon as the cement's drying up, you start hanging iron.
Mm-hmm.
Or we would come in and we would start standing columns and putting in the cross beams and the floor panels and the wall panels. And then you have to weld it all together. And then
Right.
you leave the top open, and that's where you drop into two bundles. And then you set that roof plates on, you seal it all up, and that's when you do the heaviest picks. That's when you set the intermediate high pressure and low pressure drums, and that's when you're looking at 300,000 pounds going 100 feet in the air. That they clear the area when they do it, because if that drops, it's going to tear down half the plant you just built. But I worked with them for 2.5, almost 3 years, and went from high desert to Los Angeles. There's one on Magnolia Street. It's a two unit. We went from a high desert 3 units, Hersix, to Burbank, to Magnolia, went down to Seal Beach, built 2 units there, built 2 units in Escondido, and I love being 100 feet in the air with my hood down, just burning wire. That's my Kevin, other than being in the boat with the family out in the ocean.
That's where you find your peace. That's your outlet.
Yeah. Oh man, Marlboro hanging off my lip and my welding machine just framing. That's when I was the happiest.
Oh yes, oh yes. I drove by a guy the other day coming out of my work parking lot, and he was welding their wrought iron fence, and like the way his helmet was kind of reminded me of your old work helmet with all your stickers and stuff, and I was like, oh man, I need to ask my dad if he wants to do an episode.
I wish I could still do it with all the damage I've had done with and I'll tell you what, talk about a low day. When I got hurt when I was 27 and hit with that steel bar and blew out 2 of my discs in my back, it just changed the course of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I lasted as long as I could. I made it to, how old was I? 2016 I retired, and I'm 60 now, so I was in my late 40s or early 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
Just the last job I was on was at Exxon Mobil at the refinery, and I fell down twice up at elevation, the top of the precipitator, and my general foreman came up, a good friend, well, I'll call him Mr. Haynes. I've known him for, years. And he said, hey, big dog, he said, are you all right? And I said, not really. I said, I'm hurting real bad, and I'm just trying to get the job done for you, boss. And he said, we're getting ready to do a reduction in force. He said, you want out or you want to stay on the job? And I said, I don't think I can physically do this anymore.
Yeah.
And that you need to go in and see your doctor and see what they say. Yeah. So I got my layoff, and I got my papers and my money, and I was in the doctor's office, I think, that following week. And he said, I want to do a bunch of x-rays and MRI and all that shit. And he said, he said, you're done. He said, your spine is not doing good. And he said, I can try to surgically repair some of it. He said, but the original one that you're dealing with, he said, he said, you've already been cut open there twice. Mm-hmm. Last guy that cut you open said you almost ended up permanently paralyzed. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I don't think we need to go cutting around down there anymore. Yeah. And he said, I think it's time you need to, pull the pin and do something else or stop working. He said, you can't do it anymore. So that's when I filed for disability, and 33 months later, I got awarded my disability.
That's such crap. I hate
I know.
that.
They drained all of our savings and everything just to try and survive the 33 months without income.
Jeez.
But anyway, I don't want to get into a depressing part of my.
No, but I mean, it's real though. When you get hurt, you don't
real.
expect it.
I live it every month when I cash my pension check. It's real.
Yeah.
My pension pulled a curveball on me, and I couldn't believe what they did. But
yeah.
I'm in court right now, so we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
what they did wasn't right.
Right. I got you. And you were doing welding for how many years?
35, I think, something like 37.
Yeah, that definitely puts a toll on your back and everything else because of all the different positions you had to be in too.
No. The welding part was easy. I mean, you stand in one spot and your hands do everything.
Yeah, but you remember the photo you sent me when you were down inside of like a cemented tube that was like 8 stories high. Tell me that you're not like, oh my God, I probably would have peed my pants.
I love doing that stuff. I just, or being in a man lift and go up 135 feet, the max that the man lift will take you, and a nice breeze in the afternoon, and you're sitting there welding, and the basket you're in swaying a little bit. Just kind of get swivel hips, and you just keep welding. Just keep welding. Just keep welding.
Just keep welding. Just keep welding.
I love that. I love being up and just getting busy.
That is so awesome. One of these days when we come out and see you guys, I definitely want to try and learn. I know Wesley's been wanting to learn so bad, but quite a bit of the males in our family have leaned more towards that profession, trade, welding.
Welding?
Mm-hmm.
Well, heck, you can learn that in 10 minutes. I can show you how to weld.
Heck yeah, I'm ready.
I mean, you're going to be a welder, but I can show you how to weld.
Right. I'll know enough to be deadly.
Well, let me go back a little bit in history here. Graduated high school. I enlisted into the United States Air Force. And I went to San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base.
Is that where the Alamo was? San Antonio?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I knew that. Miss Congeniality.
They were doing drills, and they put me and 3 of the other tall guys up front. So we would have been, if you watch the Air Force march, especially graduation day, you got the guys behind and the 4 guys up front for the squad. They wear the silver chrome hats, helmets. That's where I would have been one of the squad leaders up front.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I know, but it all went to shit in about 3 weeks. I had an asthma attack on the parade field, and I got down to Wilford Hall, and they ran a bunch of tests on me, and they said, well, you can't be in the Air Force if you have asthma. And it just crushed me. I talked to the chaplain, I talked to my sergeant. Said, my sergeant was pissed because he for all the shit he were giving us, our drill sergeant, he just, him and I got along. We clicked, and we had a good rapport.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm sorry, Airman, he said, but I don't think the Air Force is going to be something you can do.
Oh, yeah.
About a month and a half later, after being out processed, I came back home. and head was shaved still, and my dad said, well, you're not going to lay around the house. He says, you need to get a job. And he says, what do you want to do? I said, Dad, I have no idea. And he said, you want me to give Uncle Jerry a call? He could teach you how to weld. I said, yeah, I like welding. So I went and stayed down with Uncle Jerry for, I don't know, 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. It was during summer break. He was a high school shop teacher.
And that was Grandpa's brother, right?
Yeah, his second oldest brother.
He looked so much like my grandfather, guys. They looked very similar.
He did. My dad was the baby. Well, Aunt Mel was the baby girl, but it was my dad, and then it was Uncle Ron, who was 6'5", 310 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Jerry, and then it was Uncle Leroy. And Leroy was in the Korean War. Jerry was in the Bay of Pigs bullshit. And then my next oldest uncle was Uncle Ronnie. They went into the Army National Guard, and during the Watts riots in 1965, the year I was born, they were patrolling the streets of L.A. when all the riots were jumping off, doing all the civil rights and the issues with the black folks.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to patrol the streets down there. And apparently my uncle, they were told only the sergeants and above had live ammunition. Everybody else was walking around with an empty gun, but they had their bayonets.
Mm-hmm.
They were given, I've heard this story straight from my uncle's mouth. He said that they were given orders, 10 o'clock curfew, disperse. If they don't disperse, you make them disperse.
Mm-hmm.
And if one gentleman decided he was going to challenge my uncle and punched at him, and my uncle defended himself with the bayonet, and he stuck him.
Oh, wow.
And spent, I don't know how much time in court fighting, following direct orders, sir. And, the guy got stabbed and hurt. He never said if he died or not, but he said he following orders, and he got out of it because he's following orders.
Right.
And, if you're out past 10 p.m. and you're challenging or assaulting National Guard, they're not going to just stand there and let you beat on them.
Yeah.
So this guy got stuck, and my uncle went through hell over that. But anyways, I get to my Uncle Jerry's house, and he's been a welder for years. He worked for Otis Elevator. In fact, some of the elevators you look in on the panel, if you look at who made the elevator, it'll say Otis.
That is so cool.
He worked on elevators,
wow.
And he had to work on the pulley systems and all the cables and all that stuff. Anyways, he was a welder. I spent time 6 months, not 6 months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And at the end of this class, you could take a certification weld test. And I did a 3-position with 70-18 rod, vertical up, horizontal, and overhead. And I passed a 1-inch plate on all 3 positions, so I had a welding cert. And from there, I got into the muffler shop and doing the mechanic stuff. And I didn't start to get to do the welding, that kind of welding, until I got hooked up with General Electric when I worked on rail cars. I learned how to basic weld in 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
But to get to where you have, like they say, that a seasoned welder has a signature in his weld. You can look at a weld and say, oh, so-and-so welded that. That's the way his welds look. That's having a signature. And I have a signature because of all the years I've been welding. I just do it a certain way, and that's how it turned out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's your fixed way of holding yourself while you're welding, in the position you hold, it makes the beads look a certain way.
Okay.
That they're short and fat, or they're stretched and elongated.
Mm-hmm.
But your freeze lines, they'll make a certain pattern.
Okay.
And after you do it for so long, you continuously do it that way, and it's known as a signature.
Like like how artists sign their artistry, they have their own signatures.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Ooh, I don't remember the artist, but there is an artist who would always incorporate himself in his paintings. And there was one of Jesus's crucifixion, and it was everyone surrounded, and he was, being led up there and tied and all that stuff. And you saw everybody in that clothing, and then you see someone in the background who's in normal clothes, and he did a self-portrait of himself. And I can't remember the way that it was titled, but the message was basically like, when Jesus died for me, he was doing this before I was ever with you on his mind. Yeah. And
right.
That painting to me, and how he incorporates himself in his paintings, it was beautiful. It was a different way to look at it. That, yeah.
Okay, I know it sounds silly, but I have a signature that I do.
Oh God.
Because I clean and organize. I clean and organize houses.
Do you sign your name in the toilet and
no,
stuff
but
like that?
I make a little flower on top of their toilet paper thing, and I always fold it in a triangle.
She does, Dad. She came over to my in-laws one time, and Brenda, I think you had to use the bathroom in her bathroom or something.
Yeah, and shortly after she went in there.
She went in there after, and she came out and she goes, Blossom, did you fold my toilet paper and put a toilet paper flower? And she goes, I'm sorry, it's a habit. She just wanted to mark that she was there.
So, kind of like, what, origami?
Yeah, pretty much. Toilet paper origami, there you go.
Origami toilet paper, there you go.
That is awesome. So, all right, Dad, well, we're going to wrap this up here soon, but out of everything, how do I want to word this?
I don't know.
What's something that has been laid on your heart this week since we've been discussing you sharing your story?
This last year has been I don't know if I would call it an eye opener. I'd call it a brutal slap of reality of how fragile we are.
Yeah, an awakening.
Yeah, and also how much we need to depend on the Lord to get us through things.
Yeah.
If I can, I'll try and do this real quick since we're going to wrap it up. But,
oh, you're fine.
Okay. So, like I said, I retired, and I'm disabled, and I still do little things around the house. Not I just can't do it like I used to. Yeah. But anyways, last spring, I was on Grandpa's tractor, 1946 8N tractor, Ford, and I was just dragging the weeds that starting to come up green because it was springtime, and I wanted to get ahead of the weeds. So I'm dragging the backyard. I go out to skate the side of the house, and I drag some dirt down into the trench we get at the corner where the water runs down the road and turns right in front of our house. Mm-hmm. So I filled with some dirt, and all of a sudden I got steam coming out of the radiator, thinking, oh man, it's overheating. So I go pull in the front yard, and I look, and the bracket on a brand new generator, the support bracket, snapped in half, which that motor only has one fan blade and our one fan belt. It stopped turning, which means the water pump's not spinning, which means it's going to overheat. So I park the tractor, get out and I look, and I'm pissed because I'm damn, now I got to weld the bracket back together, and I can't do it. It's the afternoon. I didn't have enough time. So I park the tractor. I go in. I tell Margaret, "Hey, the tractor's broke. I'm gonna have to work on it." Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I go in, get cleaned up, have dinner, get back in my room, watching a little bit of YouTube, watching TV, and I go to bed. The next morning, I wake up and I can't walk. My legs won't work. I am paralyzed. I'm scared. I'm screaming. I don't know what's going on, and I never experienced anything like that. Mm-hmm. I get to urgent care. I said my left hip is in horrible pain. I can barely use my right hip. I can hardly get in the car to get over to urgent care. Walked out there with crutches. I couldn't put any weight on my left leg. Mm-hmm. Take x-rays, and they said, well, there's nothing broke. There's nothing dislocated. You do have a little bit of arthritis, but as far as why you're in so much pain, we don't have any idea. So I'm pissed. I didn't even want pain medicine. I just wanted to know what was causing that amount of pain. Yeah. So I come home, and I don't know, 3 or 4 days later, it's so excruciating. I'm basically screaming. I can't lift my leg into the bed. I can't get out of the bed without help. The kids are trying to help me. Margaret's trying to help me. Everybody's kind of panicked. They didn't know what's going on. Well, I said, I need to go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. They call the ambulance. They give me a shot of fentanyl in the back of the ambulance. Mm-hmm. Within a minute, I said, you go ahead and turn around, take me back home. I don't have any pain. They said, no, that's the medicine. He said, you need to go get checked. Mm-hmm. The hospital put me on a gurney and put me in a hallway for about 5 hours. And finally, they get me in. They do a CAT scan, x-ray, draw blood. They can't find anything other than they said almost the same thing as urgent care. You got a little bit of arthritis on your hip. Don't know what's causing all the pain. I said, well, what do we do? And he said, well, you need to follow up with your primary. And he gave me a shot of, I had morphine in the hallway after the fentanyl. Morphine in the hallway, and right before I left, they gave me a shot of, it was either tramadol or Toradol.
Toradol.
Whatever it was, it knocked me in the dirt. Mm-hmm.
That was my princess medicine that we talked about the previous episode.
You'll have to make sure you listen to that one.
I get home, and I'm trying to function. I can't walk. I'm panicked. I'm having had an anxiety attack, and I'm just screaming. I need help. I don't know what to do. I collapsed. No, wait. I went to see a back surgeon after I talked to my primary. He said, what do you think's going on? I said, I don't know. He said that, I said, the MRI, oh, yeah, the other thing at urgent care, the first x-ray, they said, you have 3 bulging discs in your lower back that are protruding 11 millimeters out of your spine in S1, L5, L4, L3. Those discs, and I've had the L5, L4 surgically repaired twice. Mm-hmm. They're saying it's S1, L5, L4, L4, L3. All 3 of them are now bulging out 11 millimeters. So I go down, I tell my primary, he sends me to an orthopedic surgeon down to Loma Linda. He says, yeah, I think your back's causing all of your hip pain. And while I'm in the office, I pass out in my chair in the waiting room out front.